Chicago is collapsing under the weight of the continued bad decisions of Brandon Johnson. While families are opening tax bills that they can barely afford, Brandon Johnson is still pushing for this $16.6 billion budget that the city cannot pay for. Businesses are being targeted with tax hikes. City Council is in open rebellion pushing against this budget. And even Wall Street is warning that Chicago is headed towards another credit downgrade. And just days after the shutdown ended and SNAP benefits were restored, Brandon Johnson signs another executive order trying to spend money to help people with food, and they're just days from receiving their SNAP benefits. But here's the real question, the question that no one in City Hall wants to answer. If the budget is already falling apart, why is Brandon Johnson running to spend even more money? The truth behind that answer should terrify every Chicagoan and every person who lives in a democratically led blue city. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notification bell. Let's get started.
Well, people have gathered here tonight at Harmony Community Church here in Lawndale as they're trying to light the way to fairness with this bonfire and discussion tonight. Many homeowners across Chicago receiving a hefty property tax increase in the mail, and they're all wondering where that money is going.
How can you maintain your home if your taxes are constantly going up?
Homeowners in Lawndale are searching for answers together tonight about their property tax hikes. Community leaders partnered with the Lawndale Christian Development Corporation to host this bonfire, allowing neighbors to discuss their options. One man says he received a bill this week that was $977 more than what he paid last year.
Tax increase is tied to a TIF that I have no idea why. Ogden-Pulaski TIF is collecting money from our neighbors in our streets, but we're not being notified for what or why it's in the bill.
The group discussed a number of solutions for the issue, including an effort to propose new policy, which would be modeled after California's Prop 13. That would limit property taxes to 1% of assessed value, with annual increases capped at 2%. Homeowners are also frustrated because they feel like they're not seeing the tax hikes lead to notable investment in their neighborhoods.
There's been a divestment in this community for the most part, but it seems like now that people have found an interest in reclaiming the neighborhood, now it's like we're being taxed for prosperity.
Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas also spoke earlier today on the tax bills while at a Rainbow Push event. She says there are new avenues for homeowners to pay these bills at their own pace.
You do not have to pay your bill on December 15th. Did you hear that? You don't have to pay it. Let me tell you why. We went to Springfield last year and set up a payment plan.
Pappas says you could go online on December 16th and find payment plans for up to 13 months. That's welcome news to these homeowners, but they still want some clarity on those tax hikes.
We understand utilities are going up and things of that nature, but it's a valuation issue. Like we don't have schools we need, there's economics that aren't here, but we're being charged to pay for economics in other people's communities.
And this is going on all over the country in blue states. You've got state taxes, you've got county taxes, you've got city taxes, property taxes, sales taxes. I mean, when are these Democrats going to get it through their heads that you cannot tax your way to prosperity? At some point, you've got to start looking at cutting expenses. And this brings us right back to Brandon Johnson and this $16.6 billion budget he's trying to pass, and the aldermen are pushing back as hard as they possibly can.
The alderman is warning Mayor Brandon Johnson that he is moving just way too fast with his 2026 budget.
Political reporter Paris Schutz is live outside City Hall. Paris.
Yeah, Terrence and Tia, the mayor making no bones about it. He believes it is time to vote on this $16.7 billion budget ASAP. The time for deliberation is over. The time for negotiation is over. It's time for a thumbs up or a thumbs down. But several aldermen are saying, hold up. Things are going much too quickly.
I think he should put the brakes on this train. I mean, we're basically hurtling down the tracks without having fully vetted this budget. We haven't seen all the efficiencies and cuts that are required. There's other opportunities through revenue that don't hit everyday taxpayers. Those all have to be on the table, and I think he just needs to slow down. If you look at the schedule, He's going way too fast.
So the most controversial part of this budget, the corporate head tax that would raise taxes on companies that employ more than 100 people. It would charge them $21 per employee per month. There's also a cloud computing tax in here and a first of its kind social media tax. All of these things have received major pushback, but the mayor's saying, no, there are no alternatives. It's either balance the budget on the backs of hardworking citizens or get corporations to put a little more skin in the game. The mayor saying alders have had plenty of time to take a look at this massive document.
No alder has put forth an alternative vision to my proposal. And so the question is, like, what are we slowing down to do? To talk about what we've already decided, several months ago. This budget has been before the city council for over a month. If there's something substantive that's worthwhile debating, I'm always going to be open to that.
And a bit of a roadblock here. A top ally, Alderman Pat Dowell, who chairs the Finance Committee, saying she is opposed to this budget as it stands right now because of that corporate head tax. So there could be some last-minute additions or subtractions over the weekend. We're told there will be meetings tomorrow and Sunday with the mayor's team pushing for a vote again as early as Monday. Some alders like Scott Wackesback saying, don't forget that parking meter deal from years and years ago. Alders need more time to scrutinize this massive document.
It's just amazing to me how he's behaving, Brandon Johnson that is behaving like this tyrant. He's going to tell the city council, hey, there's no reason to wait. I want to vote on this budget right now. You haven't come up with any alternatives. They absolutely have come up with alternatives. They have rejected a lot of the things that you proposed, like the corporate head tax, like its first of its kind social media tax that's probably going to get challenged and thrown out. I mean, everything that he's trying to do is trying to, like he said, trying to not put the burden on working people and make rich people and corporations put more skin in the game. Again, this is why it's so important to elect people who have some sort of business acumen. This man has never run a business. He doesn't understand revenue and expenses. You can't just pass a budget and just tell businesses, hey, we're going to make you pay for everything that I want to do, when simultaneously he's not looking at any cuts to the budget. And then on top of this, while we've got budget deficits running wild, $16.6 billion, a $16.7 billion budget proposal. He's trying to force the 50 members of the city council to rush to pass his bill. On top of that, he goes out and does this.
The government shutdown may be over, but states are scrambling to get SNAP benefits back to the people who depend on them. Today, Mayor Brandon Johnson signed an executive order aimed at closing the gap. And across the city, several community groups are stepping up to lend a helping hand.
So Brandon Johnson signs an executive order to allocate resources to help people with food after the government shutdown is over. SNAP recipients are going to be receiving their money in the next few days. So after the fire has been put out, he wants to show up with a water hose. He's just absolutely ridiculous. Where is this money coming from if you have this 1.19 budget deficit and you're trying to pass this 16.6 or $7 billion budget? Where's the money coming from?
With SNAP benefits still on hold for many Chicagoans, the city says it is now funneling additional resources to local nonprofits, churches, and food pantries to help keep families fed.
If you don't know what it's like to open up a refrigerator and not have enough food, then perhaps you may not totally understand the full motivation. But one thing that I am confident about is that the city of Chicago as a whole, from one end to the other, we are standing firm. We are resolved. Our fortitude will continue to remain to ensure that we protect all of Chicago.
He's told this story before about growing up and looking in the refrigerator and there's no food in the refrigerator and having to use an extension cord to the house next door to get electricity because their lights were off or their electricity was off. Just because you had an unfortunate childhood because your parents had a family of 10 and obviously they didn't have the resources to provide for everyone in their household, doesn't mean that you get to use that as a moral justification to continue to spend money that the city of Chicago doesn't have. Again, there's a $1.19 billion budget deficit, and he's signing an executive order to spend even more money.
Mayor Brandon Johnson made the announcement in the city's Austin neighborhood.
We will also be able to invest in food delivery services to people with disabilities.
His declaration will also support local businesses, including area restaurants that have seen fewer customers because of the cuts. Johnson calling it a 1-2 punch, noting that they've also lost revenue due to fears around immigration enforcement.
This order helps us stay open, it helps us keep our workers, and it helps us feed our people without fear.
Anton Seals Jr. from the Chicago Food Equity Council, urging anyone who can give back to open their hearts.
We can't do this alone. People are standing in line 2-3 hours to eat in the United States of America. And adding a little bit more to the coffers so that all of us can eat is the right and just thing for us to do.
So it's great. No one has any problem with helping people who are in need. Most people, I think, are sympathetic to individuals who need help, especially during the time of the year where the holidays are upon us. You know, you've got Thanksgiving right around the corner, you've got Christmas, you've got New Year's. That's a time when families get together, and usually when families get together, they celebrate with a big meal. So no one has any moral objection, I think, to helping people in need. But the Food Stamp Benefits Program, SNAP, is already being funded, and individuals are going to be receiving this money within days. And then he wants to go out and sign an executive order, again, just spending more money. And you know who's going to have to pay for that? You are, the taxpayer. You're the one who's going to ultimately pick up the tab, because I'm predicting that this head tax and some of these other taxes that he has in his budget, they are not going to pass. City Council is not going to pass them because they understand the ripple effect is that businesses are going to either leave Chicago, or businesses who are considering coming to Chicago are not going to come. So that has a ripple effect. Now people don't have jobs. Now the city has less taxes that they're generating. There's fewer people who are walking the streets of Chicago, so they're not spending that money in those restaurants and in those local stores. It's just this complete ripple effect. But again, Brandon Johnson doesn't understand that because he's never run a business. The only thing he's ever done is worked in government. So the only way that he knows how to generate revenue is to raise taxes. You can't sell bonds because the city is going to get another credit downgrade because of his fiscal mismanagement. Again, he's just the wrong man for the moment. And I wish the city council would stand up and tell him unequivocally, no, we are not going to fund your budget. People, if they pass these taxes on the quote unquote rich and corporations, all they're going to do is leave. And then you're going to have this big gap with a budget that's already funded, and the costs are just going to be passed on to the very people whom Brandon Johnson says he wants to protect. Let me know, maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an economist. I am a business owner, however, and I've worked in management and director positions all of my professional career. I've worked in the private sector. There are scores of ways that we could actually turn these blue cities and these blue states around, but continuing to taxing people, again, we fought a revolution against Britain over taxation. I think it's getting to that point where people are going to finally put their foot down and say no more, especially to people like Brandon Johnson. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, jump in the comment section, let me know what your thoughts are. I appreciate you for hanging out this long, and I'll catch you in the next one.